Necrovalley is finally in Duel Links, and with it, Gravekeepers can make their long-awaited return. As far as the archetype performed in today's meta, it surprised me, pulling a roughly 50%-ish win rate against most competitive decks being played. To be fair, it does get carried a lot by Silent Magician and Necrovalley, and Necrovalley can just give you some free wins against a lot of the top tier decks. For those of you that don't know what Necrovalley does, basically all Gravekeepers monsters gain 500 attack and defense, and it stops all interaction with the graveyard completely. Its effect reads, cards in the graveyard cannot be banished, negate any cards and effects that would move a card in the graveyard to a different place. Negate the effect that changes types or attributes in the graveyard. So against some of the top tier decks like vampires that require heavy graveyard interaction, you can just get an instant free win. Not only that, but on top of it, it gives you a free 500 attack and defense buff to all your Gravekeepers monsters. To go with Necrovalley, this deck runs 4 Gravekeeper monsters: Gravekeeper's Recruiter, Gravekeeper Priestess, Gravekeeper's Oracle, and Chief. Gravekeeper's Recruiter is your search card. When this card you control is sent to the graveyard, add 1 Gravekeeper's monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. So this can search for any one of your Gravekeeper's monsters, as they've all got 1500 or less defense. Gravekeeper's Priestess is probably the weakest of your Gravekeeper's monsters, and it's basically only in here because you need more Gravekeeper's monsters for the rest of the cards in the deck. What it does is, while there is no face-up field spell card, the field is treated as Necrovalley. All Gravekeeper's monsters gain 200 attack and defense. Gravekeeper's Oracle is the boss monster of your deck. What it does is you can tribute 3 monsters or 1 Gravekeeper's monster to tribute summon this card. When this card is tribute summoned, you can activate any of these effects and resolves in sequence, up to the number of Gravekeeper's monsters tribute for its summon. This card gains attack equal to the combined levels that all monsters tributed for its tribute summon had on the field, times 100. Destroy all set monsters your opponent controls. All monsters your opponent currently controls lose 2000 attack and defense. So generally when summoning this card, you're only going to use 1 tribute a majority of the time, so you only get to choose to use 1 of the effects. So the first effect, you don't want to use that often, it's generally pretty useless, but the other 2 are actually really strong. Being able to lose 2000 attack and defense off any of your opponent's monsters can just make any of their boss monsters super weak, and also gets around a lot of the negating spell, negating trap stuff that's currently going around. There's also a little combo that we'll talk about later on with this card that can make this effect happen during your opponent's turn, so it's like wall disruptioning your opponent's board. Being able to destroy all set monsters your opponent controls can also be a super useful effect, especially if you're running a lot of Paleozoic Canadias or Floodgates, since you can just destroy the monsters you've turned face down. Gravekeeper's Chief has the effect that your graveyard is unaffected by Necrovalley. When this card is tribute summoned, you can target 1 Gravekeeper's monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. So generally you don't really want this card until later on in the duel, as it's nearly always better just to summon an Oracle instead. But once you've got Oracle already out on the board, you can tribute summon this card using Oracle, and then re-summon the Oracle using his effect afterwards. To go with the Gravekeeper's monsters, this deck also runs Silent Magician. So I won't go through Silent Magician's effect too much, as you guys basically already know what this card does. It's used so often, frequently, especially in things like spellbooks, which by the way Necrovalley also can counter. The only thing that I will point out is that Silent Magician can be special summoned using any of the Gravekeeper monsters, as they are all spellcasters. The rest of your deck is your back row. So with this deck, I highly recommend running cards like Paleozoic Canadia and Floodgate, purely because they have added synergy with Oracle. Since it destroys all set cards, you can just destroy your opponent's set monsters. The last trap card on the deck is Escalation of the Monarchs. What this card does is once per turn during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, you can immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon 1 monster. So like I said earlier, using this effect, you can use it to summon Oracle and get yourself a free wall disruption during the battle phase. Alright guys, that's basically it for the talking part of this video. The rest of this video will just be 5 gameplays showing this deck in action. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new around here, comment if you got any questions or feedback, make sure to join my Discord. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.
Duel.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.